All right. Welcome to what we're going to call episode 28 of the Athletic Philosopher podcast. I am your host, Jordan Goldstein, former sport history professor who also dabbled a little bit in sport sociology, sport philosophy, and psychology. Certainly don't do any of that stuff anymore, at least at the academy. Right now, we are deep into fitness coaching, life coaching, twining the two together in a unique blend all my own, also serving as the tribal professor for tribal training, online endurance training team extraordinaire. Certainly none of the above, probably not all the above, but most likely settling somewhere in the golden mean between all of those beautiful things. I am very pumped to be recording a solo episode here today because what I have to talk to you about has been an earth-shattering revelation for me, not only as a coach, but also as somebody who is always probing deep inside of myself, in particular using the training, the truth of the training, in order to achieve self-mastery, self-understanding, gain this thing we are trying to call wisdom, and then spreading it out into the world. And I am so excited to talk to you today about Heartstance. Heartstance. In the sport world, and I think just in the general self-development world, and certainly in the psychology world, we talk a lot about mindset. We want to have an unbreakable mind. We want to be resilient. We want to be tough. We want to be strong. We want to have mental fortitude. We want to be able to persevere. We want to be able to grind. We want to be able to bring determination, motivation, inspiration, discipline to all of the difficult endeavors that dot our lives. And if I don't have the right mindset, well, how am I going to go and achieve any of those things if I've already defeated myself inside of the brain? And while I'm not here necessarily to throw shade on mindset, okay, maybe I am, but I'm not somebody who wants to disregard the importance of having mental fortitude, of having mental strength, certainly about intelligence or the ability to acquire knowledge and then utilize it, for practical aim in the world. But what I want to talk to you about today is something a little bit more deeper, and that is the heart stance. Ultimately, when thinking about living lives of meaning and purpose, one thing I've uncovered, certainly through my own journeys, but expressly through coaching other people through their own journeys, is that mindset is often a limiter. It's often a limiter of what we can accomplish in the world. And I will tell it to you this way. Mind is where I go to make shortcuts out of the world, right? There's a lot of different ways we can conceptualize the brain. There's a lot of different ways in which we can understand the processes, both conscious and unconscious, that emanate out from the mind. But I think the easiest, clearest, and sharpest way, certainly sharp when it's applied as a razor to the truth, so maybe the most honest way to think about the brain and what it does for us is that it just creates shortcuts. It's a shortcut machine. I oftentimes talk about how our eyes will filter out our nose so that I can see what's in front of me. I don't need to know that there's a nose on my face. I can touch it. It's there. If I'm looking at my nose every time I need to look forward, well, I'm likely going to miss something, right? So my brain creates a shortcut for me to interface and move through reality by removing the nose from my field of vision. And when we think about the long journey of human evolution, my gosh, do we ever need shortcuts, right? We need shortcuts. And the brain, as this central processing unit of, my body, creates me the shortcuts. And I need them. And I'm grateful for the shortcuts. And I'm grateful to have a powerful mind that allows me to say, make tools in the environment and then shape the environment towards a more comfortable existence. We need shortcuts. We want shortcuts. The world is too big. Reality is too overwhelming, right? The threats, the dangers from outside, way too great without a filtering mechanism. That's another way we could think about the brain. It's a filtering mechanism, right? It gives me the information I need, and then I process it to find the shortcut to move through it. Okay, so the brain filters, the brain processes, and then it creates a shortcut. You may start to understand now why I want to go a little bit deeper than mindset. Mindset is great, but what mindset attempts to do is create a shortcut onto reality. It tries to use the power of the filter to remove obstacles, to remove discomfort, to remove struggle, to remove adversity from whatever endeavor I'm moving forward towards. Right? Use your smarts, right? Be as productive, as effective in less time, using less materials, right? Shortcuts. We want the shortcuts. We need the shortcuts. But what about a life of meaning? What about a life of purpose? What about something like spiritual fulfillment, which is something I talk about all the time, and I talk about it in a way that allows us to use physical activity, sport, and competition to mine and locate that deepest meaning. Now, when it comes to sport, do I want to take a shortcut? Well, I actually would argue there are no such things as shortcuts in sports. You're not allowed to take a shortcut. There's only one way forward, and that's through the straight and narrow. That's through the effort. That's through the hard work. That's through the progressive overload of weightlifting. That's through progression runs and tempo runs and anaerobic thresholds when it comes to my cardio fitness and my ability to go fast. It's a mile test. You want to take a shortcut in a mile test? What is it? What's the shortcut? You're going to run 9/10 of a mile and then call it a mile? If we were producing something for the economy, that'd be amazing. But we're not. We're trying to get every ounce out of our lives. I'm trying to get every ounce out of the effort. I'm trying to get every ounce out of the training session. So I need to run the full mile. And I need to run it as hard as I can if I want to set a mile time. There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts in sports. And when it comes to taking on a life of meaning and purpose, do I want to take shortcuts there too? Do I want to have a principle, but then when it gets really hard to live by that principle, find the trap door, find the easy way out so that I can project out onto the world, hey, look, I was living by my principles. But on the inside, oh man, I totally sold myself away. That's kind of the shortcut that we all desire when it comes to living a hard life based on the values and principles that emanate directly out from my heart or my core or my center, as opposed to actually having to do it. Now, as often is the case with these podcasts, I don't have a storyboard. I don't have a format. I have an idea. I hit record, and then we see where this goes. And I have a lot of stories where it would have been easier for me to take the shortcut, to filter out the difficulties of the experience, find an excuse internally, project that externally so I can get the kudos and commendations of the crowd, of society. But inside, I know that I took a shortcut. And taking a shortcut, cutting corners, doing a half-assed job, not giving my best. When it comes to the things that are supposed to matter and mean the most to me, how could I possibly do that? People do it every day. They do it every single day. So maybe I'll give you all the most dramatic example that I can think of that's flooding through me right now. Vaccine mandates, employment, my job, my livelihood, my career, my passion. I was told by the department chair, by the faculty head, by the university president, take this medical product or you're not welcome to work here. There are so many things I could have done to take a shortcut. I didn't want to take this product. I have my reasons. I've published my entire exemption that came out of this episode. It's on my Substack. You can go check it out. I could have done the easy thing, which is take the jab and then complain about how I was put in a bad situation, how I didn't want to do it, but I didn't have a choice. Yeah, I had a choice. People told me to go get a fake card, get a fake vaccine mandate card that said I had the jab. But then what am I doing other than lying? Good's not going to come from lying. That's a nice shortcut. Like, I don't even have to take the thing and I can do all the things. Hey, that's great. You want to live your life by a lie? Go find out how that shortcut ends. What else could I have done? A whole host of other ways that I could have weaseled out, coped out, argued my way out, rationalized my way out. You do recognize that we make our decisions and then rationalize them backwards. We don't induce our decisions. We're not running a cost-benefit analysis inside our mind and then rationally coming to the decision. We like to say we are because we want people to think we're smart. But that's not how we make decisions. We make decisions snap on emotion and judgment. And then we use the brain to create the shortcut back. We filter out the lies and excuses that we don't think people will buy. And we settle and cope with the ones that we think, maybe they'll buy that crap. But internally, you never buy it because you know it's not true. You've taken the shortcut. You've taken the easy way out. And when it comes to mindset, oftentimes the people with the most intelligent brains, the smartest central processing units of the body, they fall susceptible to mindset so hard. They fall susceptible to mindset so quickly. And here's another secret. We'll take it from the sports psychology realm now. The elite athletes who use mindset in order to push their performance higher, you know what they're doing when they apply a mindset? They're deluding themselves. They're purposefully creating a fabrication. They're purposefully creating some sort of a short circuit, a shortcut in their minds that they can frame all their experiences through so that they can quickly get to the next level of their athletic achievement. The best example of this might be somebody like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, famous for this unbreakable mindset that had him believing that he was the best player who ever lived. He was always going to be the greatest. And never once in his entire professional career, and this probably dated back to college too, I'm not exactly sure, did he ever take responsibility for one of his team's losses? Never. It was never, I got to play better. He never said that to himself. Never looked in the mirror and said, MJ, you got to pick it up. That loss was on you. No, he lived with this mindset trap, this shortcut machine, this delusion that it was always somebody else's fault. One of his teammates, the ref. Maybe it was the snowplow guy who didn't adequately get rid of the snow in his driveway, and he slipped and he tweaked up his hammy or his glute, and that made him shoot 33% from the field instead of 42, and then that was the difference of the game. Do better next time, snowplow guy. And he used that delusion to propel himself to the unbelievable achievements that he obtained, right? But that was a shortcut. It was clearly a shortcut, and it was clearly a purposeful distortion of reality. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting somewhere with the trappings of mindset. Mindset is a filter that I place on the world to shape it towards my perception, but not in a truthful way. Not in a truthful way, in an artificial way, in an a priori way. That's a big fancy Latin term for just doing it first. For just doing it first. So mindset has a utility, but let's recognize that utility for what it is. It's a shortcut. It's a delusion. It's an intentional fabrication. so that I can move more quickly from where I am to where I want to go next. And we need that in a lot of areas of life. But you know where I don't need that? When it comes to personal development and growth. That's a place where mindset must go beneath something else. Mindset's a trap. Because eventually, the mindset won't adequately fit the reality that you're being presented with, and you're going to have to what? Shift up the mind frame in order to see the picture that you want, lest the truth come crashing through your artificially constructed facade of experience. So what allows me then to see adversity, the unforeseen kind, which is really the only kind that there is, right? If there's adversity that you've planned for, you've already got 1,000 shortcuts on the way to trampling over that thing. That's why we've got the brain. That's why the rational mind is so powerful in giving us step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to solve the problem, rather than 100 steps to continue to fail. No, we need that. But I don't want to take a shortcut when it comes to bettering myself. I don't want to take a shortcut when it comes to probing deep inside myself to see the truth. I don't want to take a shortcut when it comes to living on my values and my principles, or being able to, 1, identify them, and then 2, actualize them in the world through my action. So I need something else. What do I need? I need Heartstance. So mindset could be a whole bunch of things, but ultimately we want an open mind and not a closed mind, right? We want an open mind. We want to be able to change our mind. We want to be able to see new information, put that into the filtering machine, and spin out a brand new solution. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. That's how we have to think about Heartstance. Is my heart open or is my heart closed? Let me move back a little bit in the story here. What is an open heart? What is a closed heart? I was struck by this phrasing when I started reading the Old Testament every week with the sort of cadence that we do in Judaism, having a particular reading from one of the 5 books of the Torah. And each synagogue will do it the same week. So we always go in the same cycle. We're always reading the same portion of the same books at the same time of the year, all together. Walk into any synagogue in the world on any Saturday, it's going to be the same. So I started reading along. And the moment where I decided to start doing this was right at the beginning of Exodus. Man, what a story. I think Exodus might be my favorite book in the world. It's just so good. It's the universal hero story. It's the freedom to slavery story. It's the overcoming of self story. It's the finding the divine truth story. It's all these beautiful stories, right, that touch, a common experience and a common understanding that, everybody goes through. Everybody can find something in the Exodus story, whether you're Jewish, Gentile. Gentile is just anybody who's not a Jew. Whether you're a believer, whether you're not a believer, whether you think Moses was a real person, whether you think he's totally a fictional literary character, whether you think religion is good, whether you think religion is bad, doesn't matter. You're going to find something that speaks to you in that story. And I'm reading a particular text, right? I'm reading, I got it right here. I did know that I wanted to reference this book, so I did have it close. I'm reading from this Sansino Press edition of the Pentateuch, which is the 5 books, and the Haftorahs, which are the commentaries from some of the other books from Jewish history and Jewish theology. And I love reading this book. Number one, I think hard copy is just king when it comes to reading any book. But, sometimes I'm traveling and I want to keep up on the weekly readings, so I'm downloading the text from a different website. And the words in Hebrew are the same, but the translations into English are completely different. And I was struck on this, I think, a couple weeks ago when I was reading it, and I know the words. I know the words from this book because it's what struck me so hard when I started reading the first couple chapters of Exodus. I kept noticing this thing being repeated. And that was God purposefully closing Pharaoh's heart. Hardening his heart was the actual term that he used. Hardening the heart. Doesn't that just sound like such a vivid and visceral experience? Like you can actually imagine the openness to maybe listen to Moses or hear the plight of the Israelites, like, and empathize with the fact that they're enslaved. And then all of a sudden, like, that heart closes up. It hardens. So I don't have empathy. I don't have compassion. I don't have understanding anymore. And what do I have? I have stubbornness. I have arrogance. I have ego. I have hubris. And I'm reading in this online version, like, and I'm now the second time through, right? We've come around full circle when it comes to the reading of the book. So I'm on number 2 now for this study that I'm doing. And I get to some of the words where I know it should be like God is hardening Pharaoh's heart. And it's like Pharaoh's stubborn. I can't even remember the word. It's like, yeah, I think it's just stubbornness, basically, right? So it definitely wasn't hard-hearted, I'll tell you that much. Like, it just struck me where it was, oh man, if I had read this version of this text, I might not have gotten it, right? But within the first couple chapters, this is repeated over and over and over again. God hardens Pharaoh's heart. He hardens his heart. Pharaoh wants to let them go, but God hardens his heart. He hardens the heart over and over and over again. Pharaoh says before a couple of like the final plagues, yes, I will let you go. And then Moses stops the plagues and Pharaoh's like, ha ha, I'm not letting you go. The closed heart is the one that's not open to the truth. Bam. That's huge. The mind doesn't necessarily want to see truth. The mind can't really comprehend truth. That's why it filters our experiences, team. It doesn't want the truth. You have to force the mind into seeing the truth. And you can only do that through the courage of the open heart. Through the open heart. If Pharaoh's heart is closed, what is Moses' heart? Moses' heart is open. And that text is super clear about that. The closed heart removes my ability to see the truth and to live by it. The open heart accepts the truth for whatever it is and endeavors to move through the adversity without taking a shortcut. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're really, really getting somewhere here. Don't tell me what's on your mind. Tell me the stance of your heart. Are you open or are you closed? Are you willing to see the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Shout out Jack Nicklaus. Or Tom Cruise. Doesn't matter. Or are you not? Do you require a filter? Do you require a shortcut to deal with the reality? And here's the really funky part. Of your own responsibilities. Of your own responsibilities. The closed heart is arrogant. The closed heart is jealous. The closed heart is envious. The closed heart wants revenge. The closed heart can't let it go. The closed heart demands respect and authority without earning it. The closed heart is weakness. And so many people will say things like, my mind is open, while living with a closed heart. I saw that person 1,000 times living through the pandemic, which I mentioned before. Up in Canada, it was wild times. Oh, but I'm following the science. I have an open mind. I'm willing to go where public health tells me to go. If they tell me I got to social distance, Great. I'm going to go and look at, there were no studies, but I'm going to trust that there are studies out there, right? I'm open. But I'm going to shun my neighbor if he has a difference of opinion. I'm going to call the police if I see people with a gathering in their house. I'm going to snitch on my neighbors. I'm going to demand they show proof of vaccination. I'm going to close my heart off to empathy. You know why those people, they don't want to get the vaccine? They've been duped by misinformation. They have closed minds. I'm the one with the open mind. Don't tell me what's on your mind. Show me the position of your heart. And here's where the Exodus story gets really cool when we're talking about the open heart or the closed heart. Moses is the reluctant hero of the Exodus story. He doesn't want to be the hero. He flees off to the land of Goshen after he smites an Egyptian for whipping an Israelite, because he's like, that Israelite, that's my brother. How dare you? And he kills him. And he runs away. Shortcut. He's not willing to face the consequences of his action. His heart's closed to the truth of what he did and his responsibility. He doesn't want to face the punishment. So he runs away. And then, off in the land of Goshen, he sees what? The burning bush. Side note, for all the people who think you can only find God in a house of worship, like a church or a synagogue or any kind of sanctuary, Moses found God out in the desert, in nature. Maybe don't force it. Maybe go try to explore it. That's a side note. It's probably another podcast episode, realistically. Back to the story. So Moses doesn't really want to receive the principle. He doesn't want to receive the value. He doesn't want to receive the truth of what he's got to do. He doesn't want to live up to his destiny. He doesn't want to develop his character in an episode or in a prolonged journey, right? That's going to force him into discomfort by having to face the truth and then by having to go out and live the truth. What gives Moses the courage to face the adversity, to overcome his own insecurities and fear, whether that's going back to Pharaoh, whether that's leading the Israelites out, whether it's him having to go up the mountain, up to Mount Sinai by himself, into the smoke, the hail, the clouds, the rain, the lightning, the earthquakes, the fire, all of the terror that the truth reveals itself in. Where does he get the strength? Where does he get the courage? Through the open heart. The open heart gives him the courage and the strength to do what he needs to do to move towards his destiny, to fulfill his potential, to live a life of value and meaning from the heart on out. Rationally, I'm not smart enough. I don't speak well. They're not going to believe me. Pharaoh's not going to listen. I don't know where Israel is. Where are we going to guide? How are we going to be guided through the desert? Where are we going to find food? How are we going to defend ourselves? All of these questions. The mind wants the shortcut, so it's going to say back to slavery, team. And that's the Israelites. The Israelites are always back to slavery. Don't take us any further. We're more happy to go die in Egypt than it is to die off in the wilderness, Moses. Why are you taking us out there? There's some certainty. There's some comfort. The open heart demands the truth. It demands to be flooded with the truth. And it doesn't matter if the truth is good or bad or indifferent. It is. The open heart gives me courage. The open heart gives me real fortitude. Mental fortitude is kind of a trap in and of itself. Where do I get the resiliency? Where do I get willpower? Do I really get willpower from my mind? My mind's the thing that's oftentimes sabotaging me. If I'm out on a long run and I want to quit, where's that coming from? It's coming from up here. Maybe it's coming from my body, but honestly, I think most of the time, the mind sends sabotage through the body. It says, I want to quit. This is hard. I can totally stop. The guy's not listening. He's still going. So I'm about to make this quad hurt. I'm about to make that calf flare up, bro. You better stop. So where do I get the determination and the willpower? From my heart. My heart is the thing that allows me to say, I don't want the shortcut of the mind. I want to go full for it. So if we are endeavoring to live lives of meaning, of purpose, of deep spiritual fulfillment, mindset is a dead end. It's a trapdoor and it leads all the way down. Because all I'm doing is empowering the part of me that creates shortcuts. And I can't take a shortcut. I gotta be Heracles. I gotta be taking the road to virtue, the one that's fraught with suffering, with toil, with discipline, with struggle. I can't take the easy road to vice. I can't go down. And in the parable, I was writing about this earlier, in the parable of Heracles' choice, man, that vice, she's got some smoking good arguments, some really good arguments. Follow me, Heracles, and you will live a life of ultimate pleasure. You'll never want for anything, and you will just drift through life beautifully. Come, follow me. Down. There is no easy road. There is no easy road. So this is the year of Heartstance. This is the year Heartstance takes over mindset. This is the year that Heartstance becomes the primary way you talk about yourself when it comes to courage and fortitude and resiliency and willpower. It never comes from up here. It always comes from inside. And the Old Testament, man, fire. Go read the Old Testament. Get a good translation too. The Old Testament says that wisdom doesn't live up in the brain. Yeah, that's knowledge and intelligence, maybe. That's up here, rationality. But it's not wisdom. Rationality is not going to guide me towards a good life. It's going to lead me towards a utilitarian life. And then, like, my life is just a cost-benefit analysis on a spreadsheet. Cool. I desire more than that. I desire meaning. I desire romance. I desire fulfillment. I demand perfection. And so the Old Testament says wisdom is located in the heart. I want the wise-hearted, Moses said, among us out in the desert. I want the wise-hearted. One final thing from the Old Testament. This one's from Leviticus. Hard hitter. Nobody likes to read Leviticus. Go read Leviticus. God distributes his loving kindness and grace and goodness through his wake directly into the hearts of men. But if my heart is closed, like Pharaoh's heart, I'm going to be blocked out from the truth. But if my heart is open, like Moses, well, then I can go to the top of the terrifying mountain all alone, where I need to go. And I might not like it, and I might have to struggle, and I'm certainly going to have to sacrifice. And I'm going to have to sacrifice something of meaning. Well, the open heart is the thing that allows the goodness, the grace, and the loving kindness to flow through my actions, where I'm willing to make the hard choice, to walk the hard road in order to go after my destiny and not trade it away for some easy shortcut in the moment. That's what my mind wants. The mind wants a shortcut. So I got to wrap this up. Could talk about this for a long time. I'm really happy I didn't bring notes for this one because we would be way down the rabbit holes. And you might already think, what the heck is this guy talking about? This is all rabbit holes. Maybe this ain't the podcast for you then. It's all good. But for those of you who are with me and are hearing this and are feeling this, all I want you to do is internalize and meditate on this phrase that I've been repeating a couple times now. I don't care what's on your mind. Show me what's on your heart. And is your heart open or is it closed? We'll talk about this one again, team. We'll definitely talk about this one again, but I need you all to really internalize. Mindset is a limit. Mindset is a trap. If I demand and desire to live by values, principles, and aim towards spiritual excellence. One final thing, because this is an athletic philosophy podcast. What physically happens to me when I run hard? Square the aim. What physically happens to my heart when I run hard? Does it close? Or am I forcing it to open through the honesty of my effort? Chew on that one for a week, and then maybe we'll come back for it. Peace and love. See you in the next.